Hello everyone, my name is Bea and I welcome you to Curiosity, Creativity and Beyond. Today we are gonna learn about mushrooms. I went to the supermarket and I got 3 different types of mushrooms. Because I got them from the supermarket, I will not be needing the use of gloves, but if you were to study mushrooms in the wild, you would always need to use gloves. Another things that you can see on my desk that I'm going to use today, apart from my mushrooms, are paper. And you notice I have a black sheet of paper because the mushrooms are white, so I will put them in front so they can be seen better. I also have a sharpener to sharpen my pencils, a regular eraser. I have the pencils that I regularly use. I have an HB pencil that scratches a little bit the paper and makes a very grayish tone. I have a 2B pencil that is slightly softer than the HB, makes slightly darker lines, and it doesn't scratch the surface and smudges a little bit. And then I have the 4B pencil that is softer, is darker, and it definitely smudges the page. And these are things that we might be looking for in our drawings. I also have non-photo blue pencil. The non-photo blue pencil, I like to use it to rough out drawings, to kind of sketch, and then once I'm happy with a little bit of the proportions, I'll jump to my pencil. So I like the non-photo blue pencil. Then I have 2 types of rulers today. I have a transparent ruler in centimeters, and I have a ruler that came in my stocking this year, and it's a ruler that I can roll in centimeters on one side and in inches on the other side. And I thought this would be very handy. Isn't that cool? So I'm going to put these on the side. It comes with a little case. And as always, I have my cutboard and my knife protected in case I need to separate the mushrooms. And I have my bug box, because you never know what's going to crawl from your specimen. You never know what sort of critter is going to pop up suddenly. And also it would allow me to see things a little bit closer thanks to the magnifying lens that is in the lid. So, are we ready? As you can see, I have rearranged my space. So I have my 3 types of mushrooms on a black piece of paper because they're white, so the contrast will make it easier for me to see them. And I have now my space decluttered and ready to go. We are going to use words, we are going to use pictures, and we're also going to use numbers. But you don't have to use them all. If you like writing, you can write all you want. And if you like drawing, you can fill the page with drawings. And if you like numbers, you are gonna go super crazy with this, because there's so many differences and so many similarities. First, because I'm comparing 3 different types of mushrooms, I'm going to divide my space. I am going to divide my page with my 2B pencil in 3. And I also put this grid, so you don't have to do this if you don't want to. I use a ruler, but you don't have to. So now I have 1, 2, and 3 spaces. I'm going to put the name of my mushroom number 1 in this column, and I know this is a king trumpet, also called king oyster, or also called French corn. This is my mushroom 1. The second mushroom is actually a cousin of this mushroom. They're very much related, and that is called the black oyster. My third type of mushroom is this one here, and this is Enoki, also called velvet shank. There's so many different names that these mushrooms have. So now that I have divided my page and I have clearly indicated that this column is going to refer to this mushroom, this to this, and this to this, now I can start. So the first thing I notice, which one is the largest? The king trumpet is so much bigger than the other two, and I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to measure the different parts. I'm going to put, that's good, a transparent ruler is going to allow me to do this. So I'm going to measure these, and I have 9 centimeters. So I'm just going to, you know, I like drawing. So I'm going to very if I do a drawing, I can then go with my 2B pencil and say that this distance in my king oyster mushroom is 9 centimeters. Let's see another part I want to measure, and that's why this ruler is so practical. I'm gonna measure around this type, and I have 11 centimeters. How can I indicate that? Well, I can have an arrow. I can think of a way of having an arrow. This distance is 11 centimeters. You can also write a symbol, and you know that is 11 centimeters, or you can write around the stem 11 centimeters. Let's see the other mushrooms. So the black oyster, this one here, it's a distant cousin from the king oyster. As you can see, I have one of the king oysters, and I have a stalk of at least 3 big ones, and then tiny ones. Let's see, I measured the length of the stipe, so let's see how long this stipe is. And I'm going to measure from the cup until the stipe joins the other mushroom. So it's 5 centimeters. So again, I'm going to make a rough drawing, and it doesn't have to be the scale because my goal is to see it. So it does this. And yeah, I have another one here. We'll see that in a second. I think I think with these two, I'm happy about that, because I know there are others here. Okay, so again, this distance from here until here, and I'm gonna measure again, 5 centimeters. And how about a round stipe? How about that? I'm gonna be careful. Let's see if I measure from here to here is 3. Oh, I'll show you here. 3 centimeters. So maybe I'll do the same drawing for the sake of clarity. That is 3 centimeters, and I'll do it again as well. 3 centimeters around the stem. How about these ones here? These are so thin and so much longer, so much taller. So I'm gonna choose one. I'm gonna choose one. I'm gonna choose this one here. This is so interesting. Well, the first thing that I've noticed is that the stem, it kind of seems to open up in the middle. It's as if they would split out, and whether this happens because they came in a package or whether this happens normally, I don't really know. But I see that it happens in other ones as well. So I wonder, is this something that is normal? This is so interesting. So I think that's one of the first things I'm gonna write down. Its type opens in 3. Isn't that interesting? How could this be? I don't know. I wonder, is this normal in nature? Is it because it came in a plastic container? I have no idea. It's definitely longer. Let's see, I'm gonna measure it. I'm gonna measure it from the cup until it joins the others at the bottom of the stalk. And I have 12 centimeters. So again, I'm gonna try to sketch it, and I'm not gonna do it to scale to this because it was very tiny. But isn't that pretty? How round it is and how long. And I'm gonna even try to draw how it breaks in the middle. It is so interesting. Again, I'm using my blue pencil, so I can just rough it up. And you know what? If it's too long, and you also find interesting things here at the bottom, this is a tip. You can stop drawing, leave a white space in between, and then continue. And I'm just catching up here. Imagine that there was something, I don't know, like this tiny one here. Boop. I want to include that. I want to include all the tiny ones that I can see here. But if I had drawn these real size, I would have not have room in the page. So by leaving that white space, I can say that, oh, there is a big chunk here that I did not include. So, how tall did we say this was? 12 centimeters. So I'm gonna do, like I said, like I did before. 12 centimeters. Oops. 12 centimeters. And how thick you think this tiny, tiny, tiny mushroom is? Do you think I'm going to be able to use my ruler? Do you think I'm going to be able to use this? It's tricky. It's tricky. Oh, it's 1 centimeter. Oh. Around this stem. Well, I measure it. I broke it a little bit, but it's okay. I can still see it, and I had already drawn it. What other things can we measure and describe about these mushrooms? Well, we have been talking about the stipe. I'm going to add a label. Stipe or stalk. These a little bit more, and there's the other part that is like typical from the mushroom, the cup. And the cup is so different in these 3 different mushrooms. This cup, the color is brown, and I want to touch it. Oh, it's so velvety, it's so soft. It's not slimy, at least not this one. Maybe because they're in the supermarket, they're not slimy. I don't know, I have a question. It's not slimy. Is it clean? Has it been clean? But I like how soft it is. So I'm just going to write here soft. And I'm going to refine the shape of this cup, because if you notice, it has a little, let me put this in contrast with the black paper. Have you noticed how this cup has a little depression in the middle? It's like 2 mountains with a little valley in between. It reminds me of that. So I'm gonna make sure I draw that in my drawing, and because I already had my blue pencil, it makes it easier. This is a cut. I think it's because it got broken at the box. But I want to, if I put it on profile, I'm not going to shy away from drawing that, because that's my mushroom. Maybe your mushroom has a crack or has a piece missing, and it has its own personality. So that's the cup with a little valley in between. So this is the press. It's a depressed cup. And let's see how the other cups are. So the black oyster, we were looking at this one before, has a very interesting cup. It has also a depression, but look how deep that is. I can put my finger in it. Can you see it? And half of my pinky is gone. Boop. That's so interesting. So there's definitely a depression here. If I only saw it from the profile, I wouldn't see that. So, I think it's time to bring my chopping board. So, it's time to also call one of your parents to help you out. I'm going to remove the protecting cap of the knife, and I'm going to cut this mushroom here. What I would like is to cut the mushroom in a way that I can see how deep this valley goes. Okay, so I'm going to cut it like this. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness, there was no way I could have seen that if I hadn't cut it. I'm going to put the knife back in its case, and safely remove it out of the way. And I'm sure you can see that too. Wow, look at that. Because of my ruler, I can measure that. And it has 1 centimeter. A 1 centimeter depression. And how am I going to put that here? Because the one I drew was in profile, remember? We hadn't cut it. So I am going to make an arrow here, and I'm going to make this shape here. Wow, isn't that amazing? I didn't know it was so deep. And it really curls. It's so pretty. It's like a very, very fancy cup. I'm sure yours looks also amazing. I see a little bit of that in the back and a little bit of the cup that folds in. Yeah, it reminds me of a fancy cup of glass, made of glass, very fancy. And because I have measured these, now I can write that this distance from the top of the cup to the bottom of the depression is 1 centimeter. I could not have seen that from the profile view. It's also called depressed. It's only that it's much more depressed. So that's also a depressed cup. Don't forget to add with your graphite pencil a little bit of the lines so we know and we don't forget to add the structures. How about the tiny ones? How about our Enoki? How about our Enoki one? Oh, the cup of the Enoki, oh, it's so different. The cup of the Enoki, see if you can see it, is much more round at the top, and that is called convex cup shape. It reminds me of a jellyfish. I'm gonna write that down. It reminds me of a jellyfish. What does it remind to you? With all the tentacles and Nemo jumping in, boom, boom, boom. So yeah, that's a convex cap. Quite different, eh? Quite different. There's another part of the mushroom that I would like to include in my diagram, and it's called the gills. The gills can be very, very well seen here in this big king oyster mushroom. The gills, here, do you see them? They connect the cup with a stipe. They connect from the cup to the stipe in a very continuous way. If I put my finger on top, it feels like they become part of the stipe. They're very soft and they feel different. If I do this, it feels so much more different than I did this. So I'm gonna try to draw, or at least suggest, how these come from here, from the cup, and they get lost in the stipe. How long are they? Because I have my ruler somewhere here. Let's see. At least 1.5 centimeters. This one's almost 2 centimeters. So that is something that could be interesting. How into the stipe the gills go. 1.5 2 centimeters. And if you have noticed, some gills, they go all the way down, and some they end halfway, and some continue all the way down. Some even start from a previous gill and go up, and there's always one that is parallel. I really like to observe this. And you can add as much detail as you want in your drawing. They're so interesting. At least I think so. Yeah, so these are the gills. I'm sure your mushroom looks also so interesting. How do these gills compare to the other ones? Let's see. In the black oyster, because they're related, they also have gills, tinier, but they also go all the way from the cup to become part of the stipe. They're so straight, and they're also so soft. I also like to touch them like this. They're very delicate, so I might break them. Ooh. Wow. So I'm also gonna suggest my gills. They're very interesting. Because they're tinier. They are closer together. And how far into the stipe do they go? Let's see. At least on this mushroom, 1.5 centimeters. I want definitely to include that in my drawing. And also, since we had the cross section here, we can see something super interesting, how the gills, they go right underneath the cup. Right underneath. Isn't that interesting? And then finally, our tiny friend, the Enoki, he also has gills. This is the one I broke. But they also have gills. The difference with these other mushrooms is that the gills are right under the cup. I think I'm going to use my cutting board and see if I can find where are the gills. So now also, if you have a tiny mushroom and you want to cut it, you have to ask for help to one of your parents. So I think, well, first I'm going to cut it from the stipe, and second I'm going to cut it in half, very ever so carefully. Okay, there we go. Oh, nice. Oh my goodness, this is so cool. Well, first I'm gonna put back the knife into its case and put it aside. And now we can see things that we couldn't see just from the side. And I'm so drawing this. So I have room to draw my cross section. I'm gonna start with my blue pencil. So yeah, I see this cap that is very convex. It's like a balloon that is being inflated, and I see that the gills are right under the cup. The cup goes in and makes this really interesting shape, and then we have our stipe. Do you see that in yours? I'm going to use now the pencil to draw this. Oh, if you look closer, this is so interesting. And these are the gills right here. I'm making them darker so I can add a label And don't forget where my gills are on the Enoki mushroom. So those are my gills. And I'm also going to indicate that this is a cross section. I'm also going to put it here because I forgot. Cross section. Oh, that is so interesting. So I don't see the gills on the stipe, but they're hidden there. Let me also continue. You can continue drawing your mushroom, if you like drawing, as detailed as you want. I like these tiny mushrooms here. They're so tiny. They're so tiny. So that's one thing that I've noticed, that this is kind of a solitaire. I'm the king. I don't need anybody. His cousin, it still comes with some other mushrooms in stock. But this one, oh my goodness, look at that. There's so many of them. So that is something that I want to write about. The one that I'm drawing, it is the biggest, the thickest, and the loneliest of the mushrooms I have on my desk. This one comes in stock as well, of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big ones, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's so many tiny ones, and at least 9 smaller ones. And this one, the Enoki, oh my, I wonder if we would have time to count them all, but it comes in a stock of, my goodness, if, see, I can make an estimation. For example, let's guess how many are there. If it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so if this is 10, right, and it occupies at least a finger, I would say that there's at least 60, 70, that's my 60 or more, and I can use this very interesting symbol I like, 60 or more mushrooms. Is a guesstimation. There are other parts of the mushroom that we haven't written down, and let's make sure that we add them so our study is complete. This part of the mushroom at the very bottom, in this case because it's a supermarket one, they cut it, but the part that is underneath the mushroom, that is called the cup, spelled differently from the cup at the bottom. This is with a U, or also is called vulva. There's also, if you see them in the supermarket, this is where all the hairy bits come from, and it's called the micelles. I bet this also had that because there's from the supermarket. We cannot see them. And sometimes you will see that some mushrooms have a little skirt surrounding the stipe. Ours don't have them, so we don't have to worry about that. But just so you know, that would be called a ring. How does your mushroom look like? And how do they compare to one another? This is so interesting, and I have so much fun doing this with you.